And welcome back to Music Free Static. Have you ever had a piece of art that just moves you? I mean, you look at something like a statue or a painting, or you see it, it's just like you can't help but feel something. Like maybe it brings out feelings of joy or sadness or love or awe or I mean, okay, sometimes it might also be disgust and whatever, but let's focus on the good side of it, right? Now, I'm not typically an art person. Okay. Music, I love music, okay. But art isn't one of those things that I'm typically seeking out, okay? That said, there are some pieces out there that I just can't help but be moved by in some way. Okay. For example, there's a statue where I went to college that it's the statue is entitled Wind and Rain. It's by Bill Moyers, and it's the statue is a cowboy standing next to his horse. It's got the hat, it's got the duster on, all that stuff, but it's obvious that he is standing there in the wind and the rain and the storm, and it's not flashy. Okay, it's not a famous statue, right? It's not something like the David statue or something like that, right? But it's one. Every time I look at it, right, I always feel there's I always feel a feeling of strength and determination when looking at that, right? It's like, yeah, the storms will come, and we'll face them, right? It's not pleasant at the time, right? I don't know if anyone who has stood in the middle of a cold, windy rain thought, you know what, this is fun. Yeah, most of the time it's like, no, just I deal with it while I'm here because I have to, but let's get out of this. And I feel that every time I see that statue. And when I first saw it, it was like, okay, yep, cowboy statue, woohoo. But the more I've seen it, it's like, yeah, no, this is meaningful to me, right? Plus, it also reminds me of where I went to college, and I had good times in college, so that also helps. And I think sometimes you see that in art. It's not necessarily what the art is saying specifically. Sometimes it's just, hey, when did you see it? What does it also bring memories of, right? It's like some movies that you see that the movie itself might not be great, but you saw it at a time in your life that it just sticks with you, right? Another painting that calls to me is The Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. Now, this painting, of course, is rather famous. Van Gogh is a somewhat famous artist, it turns out. But this is one of those pieces that I really love the way he uses color and the way the colors swirl through the sky and all the stuff in the painting, right? I'm not an artist. I can't speak to all of the brush strokes here were just perfect. I just love the way the color swirls in that painting. And it's weird, I get a couple of different feelings from the Starry Night, okay? In one way, I get a feeling of peace because you see all throughout the sky, you've got all of the swirling colors, and there's I don't know, there's maybe a feeling of chaos or busyness perhaps throughout the sky. But then there's the town down below, and there's almost a feeling of peace and warmth and safety in those homes, while everything else is just blowing past. But the other thing I feel, it's almost like a feeling of whimsy and freedom of dreams. It's almost like a second interpretation of the scene. It's like you've got the city, every little town nestled down, and everyone's home and in bed and dreaming, and you've got the hopes and dreams and freedom and whimsy of all of that going through the sky. Okay. And depending on the mood I am in, I'll see both, right? And it's great. This is one of those things that I love about art. I'm not a big art person, but when I see something I like, it's like it's great that I could look at it in one way and say, yeah, it is a nice, quiet, peaceful night looking down on a town, and you see the lights in the windows. It's like, yep, I feel that peace and warmth. But I can also feel that the freedom of all of the swirls, right? All of the it's like he painted wind. Okay, if you want to describe it that way, he painted movement, and yeah, it's not. I don't know. It's one of those things that I just love the way all of that comes together, and I think it's great to find art that does speak to you in some of those different levels, right? Of, hey, it's either peaceful or it's whimsical or it's something, because sometimes it just depends on your mood, right? And I do have some art around my house. Most of it's small. Okay, this right next to me, if you're watching the podcast, I have a map of Middle Earth. And aside from the fact I just happen to like maps, okay, um, but I love the Lord of the Rings, and I love being able to look at this and see, okay, yeah, you've got Frodo's journey and the Fellowship's journey at the beginning, all down through the map. But there's something special about all of this kind of silly artwork around the outside of it too, right? It's just, and honestly, it ties very much into the fact that I love the Lord of the Rings. The books are amazing, and seeing those reminders of the story, right? There were, I love finding, I love finding some of the old arts too that surrounds that, right? The brothers Hildebrandt did a calendar spread that was uh, just a bunch of different paintings that depict aspects of the Lord of the Rings. And there are some of them are I really like. Some of them are, it's like, okay, I know at one point Aragorn says the hobbits would look like children to your eyes, but I never picture them as children. And unfortunately, a lot of the Hildebrandt paintings from that series, the hobbits definitely look like children. And said I never picture them that way. I kind of, when the way Aragorn describes them, it's like, okay, they're halflings. They're half as high. They children, right? That's who we know, who are that much shorter than us, right? But there is one painting that they did of Gandalf on the bridge of Khazad-dûm, staring down the Balrog, and that is such an amazing painting. I love this painting. It is so cool. Okay, because you've got the immensity of the Balrog. As it's standing there, fire and smoke and flame, and it was it is a demon, right? And here's Gandalf at the bridge, and he is standing against it. Yeah, you could dive into all of the lore of Middle Earth, and it's like, okay, the Balrogs are fallen dark angels, basically. And on the other hand, Gandalf is also an angel, in effect. So, they are evenly matched in a lot of ways. So yeah, it's one of those too that it's like the the story of sacrifice and determination, and as it no, you will not pass. You shall not pass. You are not going any further. your your time of evil is done. And it's so cool, right? That's all I could say. I mean, it's just awesome, right? And it's the type of thing that the painting has as much meaning for me because of what it represents, right? And they did another one that depicts the tree of life. So in Latter-day Scripture, we have the story of the tree of life. It was a vision that was received by a prophet, and the tree of life is the love and um it's the love of God, basically. You want to, we'll just bring it down to something small. It's the love of God, and there's a bunch of other symbolism in the dream of following an iron rod, which is the word of God and the gospel and all of that, leading to the tree of life and ultimate happiness and all that. But the other part of that dream is what they refer to as in the dream as the great and spacious building, which is the cares of the world and all of that, right? And people are standing in the spacious building and mocking those who are striving to reach the tree of life. And I've seen a number of paintings that some focus on the tree, and the building is sort of off to the side, right, and all this stuff. But the same pair, the brothers Hildebrandt, who did the Gandalf painting, did one of the tree of life where the tree is front and center, but the building is back in the background, sort of looming. And I love that depiction of it because it's, I don't know, it's you've got the people, the safety of the tree, but that the ever presence. It's like, yeah, the cares of the world are there, and they're trying to overpower everything, overpower righteousness by their size and immensity and enormity, and coming down on people. But here we are in the safety of the tree. And oh man, I guess I'm on a Hildebrandt kick at the moment, because they did a couple of paintings from 9/11, and there's one that, man, the enormity, the feeling of loss is there, right? The painting, it's a firefighter sitting in the rubble, holding a helmet, and obviously crushed by the emotions coming from all of the cleanup and the rescue efforts, all of the disaster that was 9/11, and angels behind him comforting him. Man, that is one of the greatest paintings I've seen that came out of that disaster, right? I mean, yeah, they did one that's, you can see it's just the New York police badge just sitting there in the rubble. But that one of the firefighter just sitting there, it's like, man, you feel that the loss, because so many so many of the first responders were killed when those buildings collapsed as they tried to save people. And man, it just touches me. It just reaches out to me. It says, yes, I feel a little bit of that loss with you. And it's I just love that painting. Okay. Another one that gets me, okay, and for a lot of different reasons, okay, right? Because obviously I'm old enough, I certainly remember 9/11 and all of the fear that swept the country after that, and the loss and the sadness for the people who died in those when those towers were attacked. And my dad was a cop, right? It's the idea of, hey, these people, the cops, the firefighters, they're going to run to danger to save people because that's what they do. And it put all of that on display that day. And so seeing that depiction of just that firefighter just trying to hold it together, I think, in some ways, and the angels providing comfort. I said, I it's an amazing painting for me, and it may not hit the same way for you. So here's another example. It's a painting called "The Defense of Rorke's Drift," and Rorke's Drift was 1879. The painting is by, if I'm pronouncing this right, Alphonse de Neuville. Okay, now this depicts the defense of Rorke's Drift by the British in Natal during the Anglo-Zulu War, 1879. Now, if you've never heard of Rorke's Drift, it's not surprising. Okay, we don't talk about the at least in the United States, we don't talk about the Anglo wars, the wars the British were fighting towards the end of the 19th century. At the time, right, the British, for some strange reason, I don't know why, the local general decided to attack the Zulu. And the Zulu were not happy about this and fought back. And they sent their armies and they wiped out this British column at Islawanda. And there's lots of stories about that. But a detachment of 3,000-4,000 Zulu turned to wipe out this British, I can't even call it a fort, it was a mission station. And so there are a couple of buildings, right? It's not much. It was just, this is where, a couple of missionaries were based out of. It was it was nothing really. But there were British soldiers there, so the Zulu came down. Now, there were maybe 150 British soldiers in this at this mission. And here come 3,000 or 4,000 Zulu to wipe them out. And the British, they set up temporary fortifications with mealie bags and ammo crates and boxes of tinned meat and whatever they could find, and they threw up a quick fortification, and they defended the mission from the Zulu. And it was incredible that they survived, right? Unlike the Alamo, where the Texans were wiped out by the Mexican army. Here the British survived, and eventually they after a couple of days of fighting, the Zulu said, you know what, it's not worth it anymore, and they left. And there's a really great movie called Zulu, that depicts this. Now there are some historical inaccuracies in that, as there are in most movies, but it was it's still great. I think it's Michael Caine's first movie, um, which is fine. He went on to, of course, do great things. But my dad had a painting, had a print of this painting, The Defense of Rorke's Drift, and hanging in his living room for as long as I could remember. He had that painting. He had another one. Later he added paintings from the Alamo. He also had one from Hawaiian history that I can't remember enough about it, but it was a Hawaiian battle of one native tribe. It was basically two native tribes fighting each other, and one tribe was, as they're trying to defend the women and children, they're fighting. They're backed up against this cliff, and I think historically the other tribe basically just drove them over the cliff. Okay, so Dad had all of these prints in his living room, but this one, this print of Rorke's Drift, so it may have been one of the first ones he hung. But I remember seeing this painting all the time, and I used to look at this painting, and it's a great painting. But I can look at this and I can think about the bravery and the determination and of those British soldiers, right, as they were sitting there trying to defend that mission. But that's not why I like the painting. So that painting for me is a taste of home, because it hung in my home. It's such a reminder for me of my dad and his love of military history, and sitting in watching movies there with him after dinner every night. We'd sit down and we'd have dinner. We'd usually watch the news while we ate, and then after the news was done, we'd put on a movie. And often it was a war movie, or it was a Western, or it was any number of other things. Dad liked a number of different movies, but war movies and Westerns were his jam. Or we'd sometimes watch, who knows, we'd watch comedies, and he had a number of musicals that he liked, Paint Your Wagon and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and there were some other fun ones, that were, it's like, The Cheap Detective, which I just saw is over on Tubi if you're wanting to see a weird film noir parody. But looking at this painting, it's not so much the Battle of Rorke's Drift that I see when I see that. I see all of those nights where I got to spend time with my dad. And it's those types of things, those feelings of warmth and safety. Looking at a painting where it's definitely not safety, right? These British are facing insane odds and manage to survive. These are the types of things sometimes it's not about the art. Sometimes it's about the place you're in, or your life separate from the art, right? And it's great to find some of those types of pieces. And sometimes it's just this particular painting or drawing or statue or something reaches out to you in some way, right? We've got a little print. It looks like a pencil sketch, okay? And there's nothing particularly fabulous about the drawing. It's a depiction of Jesus Christ holding a baby. But for me, we we found this. We were in I think a Deseret bookstore when we found this. We had to buy it because it was just after our daughter died. And it was a comfort for us. It's so often when you look at art, it's not about the art, it's about you. It's about where you are. It's about what you're feeling, what you bring to the arts. Because yeah, what the artist puts their own heart and soul into whatever it is they're painting or carving or whatever. They bring their own emotional message or just outpouring into that work. But we bring something too when we look at it. And sometimes you just can find that right piece that speaks to you and says, yeah, there is peace, or there's comfort, or there's home, or there's sadness. And that's great, right? That is great. And so, I definitely encourage you to, go look at art, but I don't think it necessarily hits the same, right? Oh, I will just go onto this art gallery website and look at art pieces. Yeah, sometimes that helps. And that's never a bad thing, right? If that's something you want to do. But like I said, I'm not an art person, right? I'm not the type that wants to necessarily go to art galleries and all of this stuff. But sometimes seeing that art is what you're looking for, right? You see it and it's like, this gives you that emotional, I don't know, rush, I guess, that maybe you need at the time. And you never know where you're going to find it, right? Sometimes it's like you're watching a movie and they're going through an art gallery and you see a painting that's like, whoa, that's cool. I like that. Or, I'll see it, maybe see it at church as we've got obviously art hung around the chapel and the church building that just depicts different things, or and actually religious art has, of course, a long and glorious history, right? So who knows what's going to speak to you. But if you find something, right, even if all you can do is print it out or something, make it a screensaver or something, right? But find it, remember it, right? And yes, if you can find a print, sometimes they're expensive, sometimes not. For Dad, he got a lot of these prints, and the print itself wasn't overly expensive, but he then had them like mounted for a museum, and that was like crazy expensive, museum glass and all of that stuff, right? But yeah, sometimes finding that bit of art that you can look at and say, you know what? Yeah, this is cool. And yeah, just leave you with that little bit of art can be really cool. And even for someone who is not, as I said, I describe myself, I'm not an art person. There is stuff out there that is just fabulous. So let me know if there's something out there that you like. Drop a comment and share it with others. Let us all enjoy what's out there. And until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static signing off.